Welcome to this special Thanksgiving episode. I wanted to keep today short. Sometimes the most meaningful things don't need a lot of words. Gratitude isn't loud. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's found in small, ordinary moments. Moments that make us feel connected, supported, or even seen. So instead of a long episode, I just want to share a little story with you that reminds me why these moments matter. In 2006, I moved to New York City. My first apartment was in Jersey City, which is right across the river. I knew that I would move into Manhattan. I just needed to get there. I needed to get to New York. I think back often to the first 2 months that I was in New York. They were probably some of the hardest times in my life. The first apartment I lived in was actually, I was subletting in August from my friend from college, Miranda. She was moving into a new place, so there was crossover. I subletted her place, so I had no furniture with me because I wasn't living there for more than a month, so why move my furniture in? I slept on the floor with a sheet. I had 2 sheets, actually. I had one that I laid on and then one that I covered myself with and a pillow. It was August, like I said. No air conditioning. And it was off the Red Line. It was in a very lively neighborhood, so people stayed up pretty late. It's something that you'd see in a movie where they're sitting on the street corner or out on the sidewalk in front of a bodega playing chess or checkers. That was happening right outside my window, but I loved it. I had a fan that I'd turn on every night to stay cool, and ironically, the boiler was broken, so there was no hot water, so I was taking cold showers every night, which helped. And there was a little tiny TV that had a VHS player, and there were 2 VHS tapes out in the living room, one of which was Revenge of the Nerds. So almost every night when I'd come home from working at either the restaurant or Swatch, because I worked at Swatch in Times Square. Yes, my first job in Manhattan was selling watches. I would pop that movie in and I'd fall asleep to it. Kind of the sound would help me sleep if outside was really loud. I moved there with 2 suitcases and no job. And I ended up living in New York for about 6 years. Fast forward to about a little over a year later. I had moved to Manhattan at this point, officially. I'd been living in Jersey City for that first year. After those first 2 months in New York, I got an apartment in Jersey City. And after the year, I decided to move to Manhattan. Moved into a place on the east side. I was there for a little over a month before I was like, I gotta go. It was infested with roaches. I believed I moved in there September, and it was the end of October I was moving out. So when I started looking for another place, I looked on Craigslist and I found this apartment. This guy, Matt, was looking to fill 2 bedrooms. Him and his girlfriend were going to be in the front bedroom, and he had 2 other bedrooms. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment with a kitchen and living room area. So I went to check it out, and it was a 5-story walk-up, which is pretty common in New York, or you get these really tiny, old, scary elevators that do work, but they're still slightly scary. Went and checked it out, filled out an application, and he approved me, and I started moving in shortly after that. I was there right before Halloween. In fact, I think I moved in Halloween because I remember I had a Halloween party to go to, and my stuff was in my room, and I went out that night and then moved the rest of the stuff the next day. It was wild. It was insanity, but I was also in my 20s, so I was able to do that. But I remember Thanksgiving was coming up, and I'd been bartending at the time. I wasn't performing at that time. And all the roommates came to me and they said, hey, would you be willing to teach us how to cook a traditional Thanksgiving dinner? And it took me a second to recognize what they were saying. So a little bit of context here. My roommates were all from different countries. Matt worked for the Reebok Club in Lincoln Center. It was near Lincoln Center. It was a really bougie fitness club. He was a trainer there. Matt was from Russia. His girlfriend, Nosy Fo, was from Botswana. And Gabby was from Sweden. Gabby worked in some sort of tech. His company had moved him to New York City, and that he worked in tech. Nosy had gone to school in Chicago and then moved to New York for work as well. So I said, yeah, let's do it. We got all the things, all the fixins. And I remember I had to work the night before, so I was exhausted. But I essentially told them how to do like the stuffing and everything. And, we got up really early and started making everything. And we made this makeshift table because we didn't have a dining room table in our living room. Our living room was just like, I don't even remember what our living room looked like. I was never in there. It was wild. But I remember we made this makeshift table, and Gabby's brother was visiting from Sweden, and Matt's brother was visiting, and then Nosey's sister and mom were in from Chicago. We all sat down, and we had a Thanksgiving meal together. We shared stories. We laughed. We had shots of vodka. That was Matt's thing, and Sambuca, because that's a Swedish thing. And we just enjoyed each other's companies. We shared what we were thankful for. And it's a memory that I've often think of, not just at Thanksgiving, but just in general. I think of it. I think of how I trusted myself to move into this apartment with 3 strangers. I felt safe. I was safe. I had an experience with people who grew up in different countries, who spoke different languages, but they also loved living in America. They loved living in New York City. They just loved life. They loved life. I remember Gabby especially. He kept things very simple. He was a minimalist. In fact, he didn't have a bed. He had this it almost looked similar to like a camping mat that he slept on. And he had a desk in his room. And that was it. He had his desk, his chair, and his sleeping mat. And then his clothes in his closet. I don't even remember if he had a dresser. I do remember at one point I tried to bribe him to switch rooms with me because his room was bigger than mine. And I had more stuff. I just have stuff. I had furniture. I had a bed. I had a dresser. I think I had these bookshelves. My old place, I could only kind of fit stuff on the bookshelf, so they were necessary. But I think I joked with him one time about it, and he sort of was like, "Oh yeah, I mean, we could do that." But then I felt bad because that's just, I don't know what that is. That's my personality. Sometimes I'm like, "Well, no, I don't. That seems silly." He had seen the apartment before me. He had picked that room. That was his room. It was fine. But one thing I just wanted to get across, the point here is that it's important for all of us to open ourselves up to meeting new people, to experiencing different cultures, to experiencing just something else, but to see the happiness, the excitement of all the different dishes and why the turkey and why the stuffing and the mashed potatoes and the green beans and all the things that were crucial, from the cranberry sauce to the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top. I think it was just food that brought us together and made us friends. I haven't spoken to any of them in quite a while, but I do often think of them. I hope that they're all still happy and healthy and thriving, but it made me feel really grateful that I had that moment, that I had that memory, that was something that not a lot of people get to experience. And it was very special. So this year, when you sit down at your table and you're having dinner with your friends and your family or roommates, or maybe it's a Friendsgiving because you live away from home. And I've had many of those. Just take a moment. Take in the moment. Yeah, take a picture, but put your phone down. Maybe no phones at the table. No phones at the table. We sit down. We enjoy each other's company. We play music. We talk, we laugh, we reminisce, and we share what we're grateful for. I'm thinking of all of you, a lot of you I don't know. I'd love to get to know you. I'd love for you to send me an email. altereaglepodcast@gmail.com. Send me an email. Let me know if there's someone that you think I should have on the show. Let me know if you have a question or if there's a topic you want me to cover. Or even just if you want to send me a little note, something that I can share and give you a shout out, I'd love to do that. I've had a tough year. A lot of people have had a tough year. But you know what? In this moment right now, I feel very grateful and very fortunate for all of the things that I have. And I've got a lot of things going for me right now. And that's what I'm going to focus on. And I hope that you can do the same. Sharing that story just reminds me that gratitude isn't about having everything. It's noticing what we already have, who shows up for us, the unexpected kindness that shapes our days. I really want to thank all of you for listening, for showing up for this podcast, and for being a part of this community. Moving back to Butler for me was my only choice at the time. And it has become my home again. I'm wishing you all a Thanksgiving filled with connection, laughter, and the kind of moments that stay with you long after the holiday is over. Thank you for tuning in to Alter Eagle. Join me every Wednesday for a new episode, and be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, stay kind.